everyone, and welcome back to Cyrus Webb Presents here on Amazon Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. If you guys are new to us on the Amazon side, where have you guys been? Welcome. We're glad you could be with us. Make sure you guys hit that follow button before you leave. You'll see it either here in this corner or down below. We have a lot of great programming. We're crisscrossing the country for the remainder of 2024, so believe me when I say you do not want to miss any episodes. Next week, we're in Kentucky. The week after that, we're going to be in Atlanta. The week after that, we're going to be in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So a lot of great things are happening. So please hit that follow button so you can stay connected with us. And we promise you, we'll keep you posted as we're heading into something very big, that being Prime Days coming up in July. For those tuning in on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, and Instagram, welcome to all of you as well. Hello to you, my mortgage queen over on IG. I see you. The literary ambassador, good to be able to see you as well. Carolyn Author, good to be able to see you. Glad you could be with us too over on the IG side. And of course, if you guys have any questions or comments for our next guest, make sure you guys put those in the comment section. It is open. Dr. Velma Bagby is back with us. You guys know her as the award-winning best-selling author of the Catch series. Here's book 1 here. I see some of you guys already clicking through over on the Amazon side. She also has The Wrong Catch. You all can see it there. Mm-hmm. Then she has The Wrong Catch, She'll Tear Down the House, the book for us guys. And her newest book that's also a bestseller is this one, The Catch Book of Fools. All of them are available here on Amazon. We're going to talk to her not only about the success of the series, but she's getting ready to roll out something very special this summer. You guys don't want to miss that too. Dr. Velma, hello to you and welcome back to the broadcast.
Thank you, Cyrus. It's a pleasure to be with you again today.
Well, the pleasure is definitely all mine. A lot for us to be able to talk about. I thought I'd just see you. I see your granddaughter joining us as well. Hey, Kai, good to be able to see you over on the IG side.
It's your birthday.
Oh, thank you for spending some time with us. So, Dr. Velma, let's begin with the Catch series. What has it been like for you to continue to see all the conversations taking place around these books that you've written?
Just our conversations, just how you and I started our conversations in the very beginning, as well as the response I've gotten from the readers has been amazing because I started this journey with the intent to write one book. And that was The Catch No One Wants. But because of the readers who expressed that they wanted to see more fish analogies, the second book came to be. And then the third book was because I had a small pocket of male readers, including my own husband, who said, when are you going to write about the wrong women to date? And that was the reason I was able to produce book number 3. So I'm excited about all of it. It's been fabulous.
Well, you and I have talked about before in several conversations that the thing about fiction that I've always appreciated, and I read hundreds of books every year, is that fiction allows us to sometimes talk about the truth of the world in a safer way. Is that one of the things that you have found as well, Dr. Velma? Because you've written nonfiction as well, but have you found that with fiction, you are able to address topics that some people may shy away from in a way that they don't mind talking about?
I really love that way because, again, I talk about the fact that Jesus, when he spoke the parables, over 50 of them, he was really unique in his approach to people. He wasn't in the building. He was just out and about. And when he had interactions and he felt that there was something he needed to show or teach that person, he just told a story and weaved the problem into the story so that the person can see themselves. And then as a result, also in the story, he provided a way of escape or a way to change. And it was all left up to the person, and in the end, to do what they wanted to do with what he just shared with them. And so that was the approach I wanted to take. I didn't want to be intimidating to anyone. I didn't want to come across as I was hitting anybody on the head with a scripture. I didn't want to be judgmental. Just wanted to do the same thing, weave the stories in a way that people can just discover themselves in it.
Yeah, love that. And I think that's been one of the great things. I have to tell you, I've enjoyed this series, even if you and I were not working together, and I do have the privilege of working with Dr. Velma, I've enjoyed being able to read these books, discuss these books with you, because they're so, don't act surprised.
I just appreciate that.
Well, no, because I think they're so important. I, as someone who believes in having conversations with people, I know some people shy away from having tough conversations. I've never had a problem with that personally. I've always tried to do it in the way that it is seasoned with salt, whether it's a family member or friend.
Yeah.
being
Yes.
able to be honest, but do it in a
Yes.
way that you're not trying to hurt. And we see that in this book, the first book. For those who don't know, this is the first book in the series where we have a father and daughter, Grayson
Yes.
and
Yes.
Veronica, being able to really have those important, tough, but difficult conversations at time, where it not only was holding a mirror up to others, Dr. Velma, but also getting his daughter to hold a mirror up to herself. How important
Yes.
has that been for you to share with women? Because a lot of times, and not all women, of course, but a lot of times when relationships don't work out, it's
Hmm.
very easy for either the woman or the guy to say it's that other person's fault. They're the reason why this is happening. How important has it been for you to show the importance of that self-evaluation?
It's very important because many of the times it's not the other person at all. The thumb is pointing back at you.
Yeah,
While you're pointing one finger, the thumb is pointing back at you. And it's really important for you to do your own self examination because in any relationship, you want to make sure you're giving your best all the time. And so if you examine yourself first, then you might find out you didn't do as well as you thought you did. You might see a problem in something that you did. But something you said about Grayson and his daughter's relationship, it's all about showing grace to each other, showing being patient and understanding. It could be something the person is going through at the time they didn't mention to you that they've gone through, or something they experienced at work or on the way home. It doesn't matter. But you don't take the time to really explore that, then you can miss out on what really is the true problem. And then
right.
we got a third issue,
Okay.
and that is the enemy of our soul will always fight unity and agreement. If you don't understand that's the true enemy, then you'll learn, if you do understand that, you'll learn not to treat each other as if you're enemies to each other. The real enemy is that third person, who the unseen foe, who will try to disrupt and cause problems. And so you have to recognize that you're fighting against an unseen foe and not putting a face on your true enemy.
Oh, I love that. Love that. So I love that, and that's another loving way of being able to look at it too, Dr. Mem, in that it's not the person; it's the
No,
spirit of that person.
absolutely.
And you actually address it in the Catch Book of Fools. We're going to talk about that. My
Hmm.
Mortgage Queen 1 says, weave the story in a way a person can see themselves. That's exactly what Dr. Bama has been able to do. Dr. Bama, I had a great conversation with Dr. Teresa A. Smith. You also know Dr. Taz. And I
Yes.
was talking about the importance of her patting herself on the back for what she's done. Have you had the opportunity to do that for yourself, to pat yourself on the back, not only in writing these books, but also in leading these conversations the way you have?
My pat is usually by thanks. So I pat as I'm saying thank you. I
Okay.
pat as I'm saying, God, thank you for this. Thank you for that. Or when I hear somebody's response that says something they read really resonated with them and it made them see things differently, then I pat myself with a thanks, because if I was able to accomplish what you and I are talking about in the beginning regarding weaving the stories where people can see themselves in it, and if I hear a response that tells me that's exactly what I did, then my pat is a thanks. God, thank you for making me say it the way I said it. Thank you for helping me to do this the way it was done. So that's my pat. I'm satisfied with that level of a pat. So I'm excited about it.
Okay, I love that answer. So
Hmm.
you went on from the Catch No One Once. You said, "This is going to be it. This is going to be it. This I just writing this one book." And
Hmm.
yet, as the old saying goes, life happens when we're making other plans. So now you have 25 more. I mean, you have three other books back here.
Cyrus, I say we have a list, but God has a list too.
Right, right. So you went from the Catch No One Once to the Wrong Catch. So I want to talk
Yes.
about this briefly because what this book shows is how Veronica, who we talked about earlier, the daughter, how she's been able now to take what she's learned and
Yes.
applied, which is always an important thing.
That's right.
Don't be out here teaching things you haven't applied for yourself. That goes personally and professionally.
So
Just
what are
put
you
that out
saying? Don't try to talk about marriage if you only been married 5 minutes.
there. What exactly? Exactly. You are not a guru.
No, but
I don't
they're
know.
out there.
Hey, hey, Dr. Bellman, no matter how many watch hours you have on YouTube, you are
I
not a
know.
guru.
I know.
but,
They're out
so,
there.
but I want to talk about Veronica and what she's been able to do in this book.
Hmm.
Let's see. Charlotte says, hey, Charlotte. Charlotte says, I need to read this immediately.
Oh, Charlotte.
Charlotte. Charlotte. But I love the fact that Veronica's been able to take the lessons she's learned, Dr. Velma,
Hmm.
and now she's able to share with other women. For
Yes.
one of the things I love is that you talk about this a lot, are the red flags,
Yes.
are the flashing lights, that
Right.
so many of us, men and women both, will ignore. Talk to us about that, because both in this book, The Wrong Catch, as well in The Wrong Catch She'll Turn Down the House, which focuses on the guys and how we also can fall into the same trap. You
Absolutely.
talk about that. What has that been like for you to discuss those with your readers?
Well, look, let me tell you something. Somebody called me the other day and says, I need to get your book for someone because they're dealing with this person and their approach to the situation is wrong. Very clear red flags. And just as I talk about in the book, so many make excuses for the things they see that were designed to warn them not to go any further.
Mm,
And yet they make excuses. Oh, that's just the way they are right now. Oh,
yeah.
they'll be fine. Those kind of excuses get people into trouble. And they called and asked me to send some information over to them because they really needed to read the book. So I love what you just said, Cyrus. It's so true that red flags are red for a reason. The
Mhm.
reason the stop sign is red, did you know clearly if you pass through that, you're going to either hit a car or the police will be following you soon after because you've just ran either a red light or a red stop sign. So red is a warning sign. And so yet we ignore those warning signs. And the other person that called me said that the person wanted to try to do what they could to change this person, change the man. And I
Mhm.
said, this is not a build a bear project. You people are not in the mall to rebuild a man to make him be what you think they should be. And
Yeah.
that's why it's so dangerous out there. And that's why those stories had to be written so that people could see them.
Yeah, it takes a lot to irritate me, Dr. Velma. Charlotte says I need to purchase this for family members and coworkers. Right? It really is a great point, Charlotte. And even though it's
Yeah, it is.
fiction, it's some really good, valid points
Yeah.
for the real world. But one of the things that irritates me, Dr. Velma, is this whole idea that if I've done something, oh, I want to be forgiven. I don't want you holding this over me. I don't want, I've moved on, I've changed. And yet we see in this book, The Wrong Catch, when the woman is presented with a man who's changed, oh no, we can't, no, he
See?
did that, he
Hmm.
did that before, we
Right.
can't go. And I'm thinking to myself, but if the shoe was on the other foot,
Right.
you wouldn't want that held against you. That is very real that you
Hmm.
show in this book.
Hmm.
Talk about that and what those conversations have been like, because a lot of times, men and women too, I'll put it both
Hmm.
ways, we can see what other people haven't done,
Right.
and yet we have a problem really paying attention to when we were making similar mistakes.
Well, that was one of the reasons I included that in there because over the 30 years, it's now going on 40 now, talking to single women and looking at the challenges and the problems that are out there. The biggest problem is you need to stop blaming everybody else for what you do yourself. Because if you're attracting the wrong kind of man, then that says there's something off in your heart. Because God says He looks at the heart. That's where the source of who that person really is in their heart. And so if you really want to get to know that person, that's what you should be examining. But yet so many don't. They don't look at that. They look at all everything that's on the exterior, all
Right.
those conditions that, like I said, will change over time. Yes, I loved my husband's big fat afro that he had when we walked down the aisle. But that afro packed his bag and took a flight. So does that change how I love him? No. And so we have to stop looking at the things that don't matter and really examine the heart of the person, starting with your own, because women will
Yeah.
build a list about what they want in a man and they can't even match the list themselves. So if you're going to make a list, first find out if you can meet everything on the list.
Such a great point. I want to say welcome to those who are joining us. I see you guys over there on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us for Cyrus Represents. We're primarily on Amazon Live, but we are
Yeah.
simulcasting this on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, and on
Yay.
Instagram. Glad you all could be with us. I want to give a shout out to Shonda Trent on IG. Hello to you, Shonda. And I think it's pronounced Faima. Faima, hello
Hmm.
to you. Good to be able to see you over on the IG side. And
Hmm.
is it pronounced Fran? I want to say Fran is over also on IG, and Zarita. I think it's Zarita. Thank you so
Hmm.
much for being with us. Dr. Velma Bagby is back with us. She's the best-selling author of the Catch series that all began with this book. And
Yeah.
Dr. Velma, if I'm not watching the time, it'll get away from us. And I want to talk about some of the new things you're doing, because one of the things you're gearing up for is something that is near and dear to my heart that I've been doing now for a while, is you're bringing back your podcast. So first
Yes.
of all, for those who don't know, how did the podcast initially start when you first started the podcast?
It initially started after I wrote that first book, the very first nonfiction book about dating and relationships, the one that I wrote about my daughters and my conversation about men. That's when it all began. And I decided to start talking more about it. And so I began the podcast first. I had a podcast called Marriage Moments, and I also had one that was Dating with Intent. Those who really are serious about discovering the husband that God has for them, then your strategy should change because it's not about high school dating anymore. Your strategy should be different. So you're dating with the goal to get married. So I had those. But then I did so much with it that I needed to start capturing a lot of what I talked about and place it in a book. And that's where the Catch series came to, that's when it came to be. So I had to stop the podcast just to catch up with my writing. And
Sure.
so here I am now, 4 books out. And I just feel that I need to bring it back.
So, what can people expect? Tell them the name of the podcast. I already know it, but tell them the name of the podcast, Dr. Velma, and what can they expect from it.
The name of the podcast is Dr. Velma Talks. And what they should expect is more than what I say in the book, because this gives me the platform to really speak honestly, not fictional, but tell you truth directly to you, share with you what I know, what I've learned, what I've seen, what you can do. There may be questions people might have of me that I can address directly that maybe is not addressed in the book, or could be. I don't know, but it would give me an opportunity to really address many of those things live. So it's going to be 15 minutes every week, and I will absolutely respond to all the questions and any challenges people might have on that podcast.
Love that. Now, for those who don't know, Dr. Velma celebrated her own personal milestone in her marriage this year,
Yep.
celebrating her 50th wedding anniversary.
Woohoo! Yep.
I had a chance to have an exclusive interview with her other half, Dr. Bagby, as well, here on the program with her. I want to talk about that because you continue to get congratulations on that, Dr. Velma,
Thanks.
on 50 years, that milestone, which is an extraordinary milestone. What
Hmm.
has it been like for you through your own relationship, through your own experiences, to share with other people real examples of what's possible?
I was writing kind of my statement of my brand, and someone on our team is working on my video for me, and I had to write out the statement. It really made me think and consider that exact question. I've seen and I've heard so many stories. And I said, if God has blessed us with 50 years, as with everything, you're a successful businessman, but yet you constantly pour into those who really want to know more, who want to learn. And so, why not take what I know and pour into others who are seeking to have the same thing that I was able to achieve? My husband and I, we were prepared differently back in my day,
Yeah.
but the preparation I could still bring forward and help other people to do the same.
Dr. Ram, I always hesitate when talking about this topic because I always tell people I don't talk about things I don't know. And as someone who's never been married, not trying to be married at any time in the foreseeable future, I want to add because I keep getting that
Okay.
pushed on me, Dr. Ram. I just
I
want to
hear
get
you, but hey, I'm not saying a word.
Thank you, Dr. Rim. I appreciate it. My mortgage queen says congratulations on 50 years. Charlotte
Thank
also
you.
says congratulations too. But I wanted to say this because one of the reasons why I have no interest at this point of being married, because I understand there's a big responsibility with marriage. And as someone who, at this point in my life, I'm very happily selfish about my
Mhm.
time and
Mhm.
how I spend my time and my energy and my resources. Uh, I know that's just not the area I'm looking in. I said all that to say you just said something really interesting that you were equipped differently before. What has it been like for you to see the way that marriage has changed, or maybe the idea of marriage has changed?
Well, there are many ideas out there that do not qualify for the definition of marriage the way God has designed it. There are lots of arrangements out there. There are so-called marriages that are not really marriage if you go behind the scenes and see how they really lived and how they really treat each other. So there's so many classifications. You can almost develop your own in terms of, well, this is the way we want it. Okay, that's fine. It's a free country. You get to do all of that. But I'm not talking about that kind of marriage. I'm talking about the one that God designed for us to have. And if that's what you're hoping to discover, then that's where you want to talk to me or read one of my books, because the kind that God designed, I mean, he says, and I talk about the three levels of coming together, the weave, the leaves, the cleave, and the weave. He tells us to leave mother and father at a time when there was no mother and father.
Mhm.
So he made it very clear in the beginning what he wanted that couple to do. And then he says that we are to cleave only unto each other. So that's another issue I see out there. It's too many people involved in a marriage. It's
Mm.
too many legs, too many heads, and it's too many involved. I don't care who your best friend is. I'm now your best friend. And so look at, my husband and I, we looked at each other and look at this face. We both said it. Look at this face, because this face is not going anywhere.
Yeah.
That's what we said to each other. And then he said, to leave, cleave, and weave. Weave that relationship in a way that you two become one. And let me tell you, when you come from two different perspectives, two different mindsets, like you said, you like to be free to, you still can have all of that, Cyrus. It depends on who God sends you. You can
Mhm.
still have all of that. And with all the support you need, hey, I'm gone. Okay, I'll see you when you get back. That's not hard to do. So I'm just saying that you weave it in a way that works for the two of you, so
Mhm.
that as long as you keep into what God tells you to do.
Oh, that's a great message, and it's a great reminder too. And I love what you said. And Dr. Bam, I want to commend you on something.
What?
No, and I mean this. I'm being very serious right now.
Hmm.
I have had a lot of conversations with you over the years.
Yes.
I have never felt like your conversations were judgmental to the audience if they had a different perspective.
Hmm.
I've never felt like any of your conversations have been condescending. They have their basis,
Yeah.
and that's what you go by.
Hmm.
And the fact that you're able to say what you just said in such a loving way that,
Hmm.
hey, you can have your thing over
Yeah.
there, but that's
Hmm.
not the way that it was intended to be.
Right.
And I think that those conversations are so important. And hey, Chanel, going to be able to see you over. Chanel's joining us over on Facebook. Good, glad you could
Hey,
join us.
Chanel.
But I think that is so important. So I want to ask you this as we wrap up here: is
Hmm.
that kind of what you hope this whole series does? Gets people to talking? Because one thing that happens in the wrong catch, and also the wrong catch you'll turn in the house, is men and women are able to have conversations. They're actually able to talk about their experiences, no judgment. Especially with, I thought there was less judgment with the guys. I have to be honest with you, in their book than the women. That's just my.
Really?
I felt that way. I
Yeah.
felt like there was less judgment among the guys because I think we as men, especially as Grayson talked to them, we know how hard it is for us to
Yeah.
get
You
communicate
accept it.
and to.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that's just as a reader, that's the way I took it. But is that kind of what you hope the series does? Is that it opens up, it entertains us in a sense because it is fiction, but also gets us to having those real conversations.
Absolutely, because women are harder critics. They are to each other as well as towards the men. They're the harder critics. After, like I said, the 40 years now, I used to say 30 years, but it's about 40 now.
Mhm.
Just hearing the same stories over and over, it's the women are the hardest critics, not only the hardest critic of themselves, of their mates, everybody. It's just the way many women are wired. And so that's why it's important for me to stress the need to examine our own selves first, because it may not be as bad as you think when you slow down enough to see what's going on with you. And you remember, you and I talked about what my grandmother said the last time, that God will not give you a broken glass to cut your lip. But what if you're the broken glass?
Yeah.
So there you are getting somebody that's great for you, but because you're still broken over all the things you've experienced in your past, you're ready to cut that guy up. And so that's why self-examining. If I'm saying to you that God has an ideal mate for you, whether it's you, Cyrus, or anyone listening,
Mhm.
and you said, when I'm going to really trust God to bring that person in my life, then I'm saying to you, if that's what you really want, then your job should be making sure that you're really getting yourself ready for that person. Start cleaning up and decluttering. Get rid of the dead weight, the things that Paul says, lay aside every weight and the sin. Not everything we're carrying around is a sin, but you're still carrying it around and it's dead weight. Every runner will try to lighten their load, and that's what you should be doing, so that when he does or she does come, you've already gotten rid of the things that could bring harm to your relationship.
Such a great point. Kalina, hello to you. Good to be seeing you on the ID side. Chanel says on Facebook, this is so spot on. And Dr. Velma is a constant professional and truly the definition of a Titus II woman. Totally agree with that, Chanel. Again, everyone, Dr. Velma
Thanks,
Bagby,
Chanel.
the best-selling author of the Kit series. You've seen them here. All of them are available here on Amazon. And as you heard her mention, her new podcast and new season is coming soon. So, Dr. Velma, let our audience know how to stay connected with you and also let them know how they can keep up with the updates on the podcast.
The last thing I want to say is don't be the fool. Now, the book of fools, although it's talking about the mate, you could be the fool too.
Yeah.
So make sure that you are reading that one as well so that you are not what God calls a fool. I'm not calling you a fool, but God does. Foolish behavior is foolish.
Right.
You can reach me on drvelmabagby.com on my website. I'm on all the social media platforms. So reach out to me in any one of those means and stay tuned for July. I cannot wait to get the podcast going again. Dr. Velma Talks is going to be talking about relationships and marriage. And the reason I talk a little bit about marriage to singles is because that's how you prepare. You're prepared by the time you make it into that marriage, you know exactly what you need to do.
Love that. Dr. Velma, another great conversation. Thank you so much for
Thank you,
being with us.
Cyrus.
I'm looking forward to our next chat together.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great
Thank you,
segment of
guys.
Cyrus Webb Presents. Until next time, I'm Cyrus Webb saying thank you so much for being with us. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.